Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. So today we're diving into something we all experience but honestly rarely truly understand: anger. We're not just talking about being in a bad mood today. No, we're going to look directly at the actual biological and cognitive facts to completely demystify exactly what happens when you get mad. Let's get into it.
Think about the last time you just saw red. Like maybe someone cut you off in traffic, or you got one of those lovely passive-aggressive emails at work. What actually happens inside your body when you lose your temper? Well, throughout this explainer, we're going on a really fast-paced journey into the literal explosion of chemicals that kicks off in the human body the absolute second you feel provoked.
Section 1, Anatomy of an Outburst.
Okay, first things first, we really need to establish right out of the gate that anger isn't just a fleeting feeling or a personality quirk. It is a highly potent biological state. It's a literal fight-or-flight response triggered by specific things in our environment. Stress, social pressure, conflict, feeling rejected. I'm sure we can all relate to at least a few of these, right? Sometimes it's literally just the office printer jamming right before a massive meeting. But these everyday psychological triggers are the very first domino to fall. They're telling your brain that something you value, your safety, your status, your desires, is under threat.
And man, when that domino falls, the physical reaction is incredibly rapid. It kicks off right in your brain's amygdala, which detects the threat and instantly signals your adrenal glands. Boom! Immediately, a massive flood of stress hormones, like cortisol and adrenaline, just rushes through your system. It's wild. Your brain actually shunts blood away from your gut and sends it straight to your muscles. Your heart rate spikes, your blood pressure rises, you start sweating. You are, quite literally, being prepped for a physical fight-or-flight battle.
Which brings us to Section 2, Blinded by the Rage.
So, we've got this massive chemical flood prepping our muscles for action, but how does it actually affect our thinking? Well, it all boils down to motivational intensity. High-intensity emotions, stuff like anger, fear, and stress, they actually narrow your cognitive scope. They literally put blinders on you. You become so hyper-focused on the object of your anger that you completely shut out alternative perspectives and block rational thinking. On the flip side, low-intensity emotions, like gratitude or amusement, broaden your cognitive scope. But when you're angry, you just can't see the big picture.
And you've got to look at just how deep this cognitive impairment goes. Researchers doing fMRI studies tested people's ability to make really quick word decisions, what scientists call lexical decision-making. And they did this while subliminally flashing the word anger on a screen. Get this. Even unconscious exposure to the word literally slowed down their ability to process semantic decisions, and at the exact same time, it spiked their systolic blood pressure. Just the hidden concept of anger disrupts your brain's processing speed. No way, right?
So the big takeaway here is understanding the literal logic of your brain on anger. While the dorsal pons down in your brainstem is completely ramping up for physical action, look at what gets suppressed. You have attenuated or reduced activity in your visual cortex, you've got decreased attention processing in the parietal lobe, and, maybe most importantly, suppression of the prefrontal cortex, the exact area of your brain responsible for understanding consequences and making good decisions. Your brain is literally prioritizing a physical fight over logical thought.
Moving on to Section 3, the hidden physical toll. Now, I want to slow down for just a second here. Because sure, anger is a completely natural survival mechanism, but its long-term damage to the human body, and honestly to our relationships, is severe. Look at this number, 2. That is the factor by which your risk of a heart attack multiplies for 2 full hours after a single intense angry reaction, meaning your risk doubles. It is a really stark reminder that losing your temper isn't just letting off steam. It is actively putting intense, dangerous stress on your cardiovascular system.
And when that anger becomes chronic, that constant, non-stop flood of cortisol and adrenaline just flat out exhausts your body over time. In the cardiovascular system, we're talking high blood pressure, heart disease, and strokes. And because your brain and your gut are so closely connected, it totally disrupts digestion, contributing to IBS and acid reflux. It even weakens your immune system. It triggers skin issues like eczema and causes severe insomnia. Guys, our bodies simply aren't built to sustain this level of chemical alert.
But the toll extends way beyond just our own bodies. Check out this number, 176,100. Over the past decade in Australia alone, there have been a staggering 176,100 reported cases of workplace violence. Unchecked anger absolutely poisons work environments. It manifests as hostility, passive-aggressive behavior, outright defiance, and ultimately, it destroys team morale and drives up turnover.
And sadly, it completely devastates our closest relationships at home, too. When one partner uses anger to assert dominance, it actively damages affection and breaks down trust. Research by the Gottman Institute actually found that even subtle signs of anger, like just rolling your eyes, are incredibly strong predictors of divorce. When anger is continuously used to dominate, it almost always invites the other partner to retreat into submission and deep depression.
Let's pivot to some good news in Section 4, Mastering the Flame.
Because there actually are actionable, evidence-based tools you can use to extinguish these destructive physiological and cognitive effects before they take over. Since anger is a physical state, we can literally use physical extinguishers to fight it. Remember that flood of cortisol and adrenaline we talked about earlier? Well, moderate exercise literally burns off those stress chemicals. Deep belly breathing directly counters that fight-or-flight response, signaling to your brain, hey, we are physically safe. Combine that with a low-sugar diet, hydration, and getting enough sleep, and you are building a physical baseline that is so much more resistant to those initial anger triggers.
Now, what about when you're actually in the heat of the moment? Well, a simple 4-step communication framework is absolutely your best defense. Step 1 is definitely the most critical. Just pause and breathe deeply. This crucial pause gives your chemically suppressed prefrontal cortex the time it desperately needs to catch up, completely preventing a destructive reaction. From there, try to empathize with the other person's perspective. Use I statements to explain your feelings without placing blame. And finally, actively shift your focus to gratitude. That specifically helps broaden that narrowed cognitive scope we talked about earlier.
All of this basically falls under the umbrella of emotional regulation. It is the ability to shift from a reactive mindset to a proactive one. And I really want to emphasize this. Choosing kindness and patience over anger is not a sign of weakness. No way. It is a highly learned, high-level skill. When you master it, you aren't just protecting your own heart health, you're breaking generational cycles of anger and modeling peace for your kids, your spouse, and your colleagues.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this final provocative thought. The very next time you're provoked, just ask yourself, is being right actually worth the cost to your heart? You now know exactly what anger does to your brain and your body. You have the power to control your biology rather than letting it control you. I really hope this explainer has empowered you to put these new tools into practice. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll see you next time.